Lewis Hamilton is undergoing extensive testing with Ferrari under the TPC rules, and it looks like he'll finally get his hands on the SF24. What Hamilton missed desperately after the end of the 2024 season in Abu Dhabi will be compensated with a Pirelli test for the 2026 tyre specifications. But what is more important is that the seven-time world champion has already had massive influence on the car development based on the current testing process. With this in mind, how valuable will Hamilton's experience prove to be? And more importantly, will he finally bust the myth that he's not good at developing a car in the championship winning manner? One of the greatest transfers in the world has finally materialised, and Hamilton started the testing with Ferrari. And make no mistake, the team was ready for this from day one. The simulator work that was done from both Hamilton and Leclerc was followed by a test in Fiorano, the private circuit of Ferrari, with the F175, and then the team proceeded with a 1,000-kilometre three-day testing in Barcelona. Many believed that this was too much to handle, even for a driver like Hamilton, because Ferrari has packed all of the 1,000 kilometres allowed in a three-day period. But nevertheless, there wasn't more they could have done in order to keep him up to speed with the current version of Ferrari's cars. Of course, he is yet to drive the SF24, which was the most competitive from the ground effects era, along with the F175, with the difference that the SF24 has gone upwards in performance and the F175 has gone backwards. Hamilton, however, didn't manage to get a lot of time with the SF23 in Barcelona because he suffered from a crash that ultimately ended the chances of Leclerc to continue the testing as well. This is something that might have plagued the opportunity that the seven-time world champion has waited for so long. But nevertheless, Ferrari isn't worried a single bit, because both he and Leclerc were put on a different program throughout the testing in Barcelona. Lewis Hamilton worked on the tyre management, an area that he was lacking severely in Mercedes, as Ferrari don't want to risk anything with the car's performance if Hamilton was to start the season in a poor manner. Obviously, they are expecting valuable feedback from the Brits' side, and the fact that the changes to the car have already been made, such as moving the cockpit a bit backwards and working on the pedals, a complicated process for the engineers, goes to show that the Maranello team will go to any length when it comes to providing Hamilton with what he essentially needs to win the 8th championship. And they have been blessed by a very proper response from his side, as reports state that the feedback was quite extensive and that the engineers have already learned a lot as to which direction they should move in the upcoming season. Even though the testing was done on older spec cars, it doesn't necessarily mean that they are unusable, because at the very core of it, the ground effect is the same, and with the 2025 version of the car being 99% different, it's still not going to be a revolution because of the strictness of the rules. That is why the feedback of Hamilton is very important, and the fact that he already started getting used to the braking system because of the different discs that are used by Ferrari goes to show that he's already adapting very well to the car. Despite the crash that happened at turn 12 at a speed of 124 miles per hour, the impressions from Hamilton were positive to the Ferrari engineers, and the SF23 was not as bad as they thought, even though it won only one race throughout the entire season. What is worth mentioning is that the remainder of the 23 races were won by one car, the RB19. An area that Hamilton has improved a lot compared to his time in Mercedes, as well as Carlos Sainz's time in the SF23, is the start procedure, as well as releasing the clutch on time. The Spaniard had a lot of issues with this aspect of the car while being with Ferrari, and the fact that Hamilton is already making progress with machinery that belongs under the TPC rules could only mean good news for him in the foreseeable future. I know that many of you would bash him for the crash in Barcelona and say that he doesn't have it in him anymore, but the reality is vastly different. The fact that he crashed means that he pushed the car to great extremes. In order for you to extract maximum potential and feedback out of the car and give it to the engineers in the form of usable data, you need to push the car to the absolute maximum, and that's precisely what Hamilton has been doing with the SF23. And quite frankly, we don't expect him to do anything less with the SF24 as well, because there is a lot at stake for his legacy as we speak. The pressure for Hamilton is, of course, immense. He will have arguably the best qualifier on the grid sitting next to him in the garage, and that applies even more expectation on his performance than we can possibly imagine. In the past couple of years, we've seen that the 7-time world champion struggled a lot with the one-lap performance of the Mercedes cars, which was usually Mercedes' fault because they were making changes to the car at the last minute. Nevertheless, the test that is waiting for Hamilton in Barcelona is set to have even more impact on his adaptation process to Ferrari, and the Brit made sure that he will leave no stone unturned when it comes to receiving feedback from other drivers who have driven the Ferrari. The 7-time world champion has gone to greater extents and has talked multiple times to Sebastian Vettel prior to the new test that is arranged for him in Barcelona, orchestrated by Pirelli. Reports from Italy state that Hamilton and Vettel have been chatting constantly in the past couple of days, where Hamilton shared his feelings about the car, and Vettel, who was part of Ferrari from 2014 to 2020, has shared his own thoughts as to what areas Hamilton can improve in. Now, a lot of hope is invested in the SF24 test in Barcelona because it's effectively a way for Hamilton to get used to the latest machinery that Ferrari used in F1 and obviously be one step closer to adapting to the 2025 car. While this is going to be a new process for him and Leclerc, the situation might be a bit more difficult for Hamilton because of all the extensive testing that has been done in the past couple of months. Certain F1 legends have raised their concerns about Hamilton staying fit enough throughout the entirety of the season at the age of 40, because it's going to be very difficult for him to fight for a championship against young bulls like Leclerc, Verstappen and the McLaren duo, while also being twice the age as them. Be that as it may, Hamilton has a victorious spirit, and while team orders might come sooner rather than later if 2025 proves to go in a certain driver's way, there is no doubt that the 7-time world champion is not going to back down without a fight. Martin Brundle believes that Ferrari won't waste as much time as McLaren did in terms of asserting team orders, and that Hamilton will have around 3 races to prove that he can fight for the championship. If he doesn't get to accommodate the car in this span of 3 races, rest assured that Leclerc is going to be the preferred driver for the remainder of the season, and Hamilton would have to wait for 2026 and the new regulations before he can return the strike back. Elaborating further on this, Brundle said, "There are no excuses at this level for anybody, even the rookies, but you might give the rookies half a season to get their act together maximum. They will expect somebody like Lewis to have aced the people around him and the car within 2 to 3 races, to be honest. Never underestimate Lewis Hamilton." Of course, this could be said with a bit of bias because a British driver left a British-based team and the comments are said by a British media outlet, Sky F1. But nevertheless, Ferrari has full trust in Hamilton, and by everything we saw until now, we can tell with confidence that he is being treated vastly different compared to how Mercedes treated him from 2022 onwards. With all this in mind, what do you think about Hamilton's feedback to the engineers in Ferrari so far? And more importantly, do you think that there is an opportunity for him to win it all in the first chance he will receive in 2025? Let us know in the comments below, and if you're interested in Wolff's latest bombshell to the Formula 1 grid, make sure to check out the video that's appearing on your screen right now.